Today's lab is going to be on how to nest a symbol in Adobe Animate. Now, I want you to go ahead and open up this file, nested symbol lab policecar.fla. Now, what we're looking at here is we have three different layers. I have a car layer, which is all of this. Then I've got my light layer, which is going to be the light on top of the car. And then finally, I've got my tire layer. So what we're going to do first, when creating nested symbols, we obviously need to create some symbols. Now, we've done this before with the bouncing ball motion tween labs 1 and 2. And we're going to repeat that process, and we're going to make all of these graphic symbols. And to go ahead and get started with that, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to click on my layers down here. So I'm going to click directly on my car layer first. I can right click and go to convert to symbol, graphic, and I'll name this police car. And it's a graphic symbol. Change the type to graphic. This is very important that you remember to make sure this is a graphic. Otherwise, you're going to be pulling your hair out later, wondering why it isn't animating on the stage, and it more than likely will be because you kept it as a movie clip. So make sure you change this to graphic. Now go ahead and click OK, and now you'll see you have your graphic symbol located right down here, and we're going to create all of these into symbols. So I'm going to take the light. I can just click it on the layer here. I can keyboard shortcut press F8, and that will convert to symbol, or right click, convert to symbol, and I'll call this flashing light. So I'm going to show you a couple things on animation in this particular video which are super useful. Click OK. Now I've got my flashing light. Obviously it's not flashing yet, but it will. And then I've got my tire layer. And my tire, I can press F8 or right click, convert to symbol, and I can change this to tire and press OK. Now I've got three symbols, so if I click on my police car, I've got that one symbol. If I select on my light layer, I've got another symbol highlighted in blue, and if I select on my tire layer, I have that as well with that blue outline, meaning they're all symbols. You'll also notice in your library, located over here, you will have your multiple different symbols. Now, when going forward, how do we nest the symbols themselves? So, what is a symbol? What does it do? Why is it so significant? Why can't we just leave it as is on the stage? And the reason being is the same thing goes and applies to why we converted the bouncing ball in the earlier labs to a symbol, and it's so we can motion tween it very easily. So once this becomes like this single object here, we're able to easily tell Adobe Animate how to animate from point A to point B, which makes things super duper easy for us. Now the other thing is what's important about having a nested symbol. Why did I have to create these into symbols too? Well, what we're going to do is symbols act in a strange way because this symbol actually has its own timeline. So what I want you to do first, you'll notice you're in scene 1 right now, but if you go ahead and double click on this symbol, you'll notice you're now in the police car symbol. Right? That's what this little icon is. It's a graphic symbol. And you're going to notice you have a new timeline here. And it just says layer 1. Instead of in scene 1, you have 3 layers. And here, we only have 1 layer. So now that I'm inside of my police car symbol, I'm going to name this layer police car. And I'm going to go ahead and create a new layer. And I'm going to call this one front tire. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to just go ahead, I'm going to ignore this transparency of these other objects. If it does bother you, you can always quickly go back and just hide them. Tire and light. Okay, so going back here, now I've I've just hid them. They're still on the main stage. And what we're going to do is take this tire from our library, and we're just going to go ahead and click and drag it onto our stage, onto our front tire layer. Make sure it's on its own layer. And now I've got my front tire there. And that's a pretty good placement. So now I'm going to create another layer. And this layer is going to be called, take a wild guess, back tire. And what I can do is I can take this tire again, and I can reuse it, so I don't have to create so many different instances of my objects. If I have an object that's exactly the same, why bother creating duplicates of it by hand when you can just drag and drop it from your library? Now, one thing I do want to make sure is I'm going to create a ground line just to make sure my tires are even. So ground line. I'm going to end up deleting this one later, and you'll notice that my back tire is slightly offset from my front. And I just zoomed in, pressing Control plus, and I'll bring it down 1 pixel, and I'm just using the arrow keys on the keyboard to move it pixel by pixel, and that looks good. And now I'm going to go ahead and delete this layer. So already now I've created 3 layers. I have my police car layer, I have my front tire, and I have my back tire. Now what I need to do next is, if you can take a wild guess, we're going to start to animate this. We need to add frames. So frames are what allow us to animate. Now I'm going to go ahead and just do 24 frames because we're at 24 frames per second, so this will just be a 1-second animation, and we're going to have it loop. Now that we already have our back tire and front tire as symbols, we don't have to go ahead and convert them to symbols again. We can go ahead right in here and do a create motion tween. And again, I'm still inside this police car layer here. So once I convert to motion tween, you'll notice it turns blue. I'm going to do the same thing here. Create motion tween, and it's going to turn blue. So just to show you, I don't have anything from the, I'm going to go back to scene 1, and you'll notice now scene 1 has just this car, and it's all one object. It's a nested symbol now. I still have these other objects on the stage, but necessarily I don't really need them anymore because I have them in my library. So if I were to go ahead and, let's just pretend you accidentally deleted your tire and you accidentally deleted your light, it's not a big deal because you can always just go ahead and click and drag and release and bring it right back onto the stage. So that's a really great feature of having symbols. Now I'm going to go ahead and double click on this police car one more time, and now you'll see that I'm inside the police car. So inside scene 1, double click on the police car, now I'm inside the police car. Now continuing where we left off with the back tire and the front tire, we need to take these tires and we need them to rotate so it appears as if this car is in motion, and we'll have animated nested symbols, which makes animating on the main stage in scene 1 far more easier. So in order to make these tires rotate easily, on frame 1 I have it set to right here, and let's just go to frame 24. And let's just pretend I want to use my free transform tool, and I have it centered, and I just want to go ahead and rotate it. And when I play it back, that's all fine and dandy, but it's not rotating the way I told it to. I wanted it to rotate this way. So let me go ahead and show you one more time. I'm going to go here, rotate it to the left. And now it is working correctly. But there's a better way to do it. So the better way to do it is by clicking here in your timeline, and you can click anywhere. Say I'm on frame 10, and I'm going to rotate 1 time. And you'll notice it didn't create that keyframe at frame 10. it created it at the very last frame, which is really great because that's exactly what I want it to do. I want it to loop. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and play this just to show you. And it's going clockwise. So if my car is going this way, that should be an appropriate rotation. But let's just say I wanted it to go in reverse. I can do counterclockwise really simply. And now I know it does a full 360-degree turn. So one rotation is 360 degrees plus whatever additional degrees you'd like to add to it. So let's just say you wanted to do 450 degrees. So 360 plus 90. And now it'll do an extra 90-degree spin. But in this particular case, I don't want that. But just to go ahead and show you that you can do that. And I'm going to bring this back to clockwise. So inside here, as long as you click on your blue timeline, that is the only way these settings are going to appear to allow you to change any rotations, degrees, or direction. So then I'm going to do the same thing for the front tire. I'm just going to go ahead and click anywhere in this timeline. I'm going to change the rotation to 1 time. And I already know I want to keep it at clockwise. And I want to keep the degrees at 0. And I'm going to go ahead and just play this back and see if it looks right. And it looks okay to me. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to go back into scene 1. And I'm going to try to play it. And this is where a lot of students get confused. So inside my police car symbol, I hit play, it's working fine. If I press Control Enter, it's not doing anything. But why? It's animating inside the symbol. Why isn't it animating in the exported Swift that I created? Now, I'm going to go to scene 1. I'm going to need to do one thing before it plays in scene 1, and that is insert frame. So now I've got this set to 24 or 25 frames now. And now if I press Control Enter, I have it at 25 frames. So you're going to see a little quick pause when it repeats its loop. And let's just say I want to give it even more frames. Let's say, let's go to 120. So that'll give us 5 seconds of animation before it repeats itself. So I'm going to press Control Enter. And you will see a quick little hiccup. I don't know if you'll catch it. It's not, at the moment, a very important thing to, let's say, worry about. But in case you're wondering and you see that quick little pause and it's bothering you a little bit, the reason being, I'm going to explain what looping is right now, what the loop does. The loop here on front tire and back tire, as they go forward, it catches at the same exact frame. So frame 1 is at 360 degrees. And then the last frame is at 360 degrees. So when it loops, it's actually going to play the first frame as the very next frame and continue that animation. So you're going to see a quick pause because this exact position is going to play for 2 frames in a row. Now this isn't anything to worry about, but if you were wondering how to fix it, my really easy way to go ahead and fix it is just to go to the frame directly before it, press up and down, just move it up 1 pixel and down 1 pixel. So you've just kept the information there on the rotate, and you also have created this keyframe. And I'm going to do the same thing on this one, and then I'm going to remove this frame. So now at 24 frames, when it loops, it's not going to play that frame 2 times in a row. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add the light. And the light I'll do in a separate video. I think that covers enough as far as the main car, creating symbols, nesting them, playing around with the motion tween and the rotation. And next we'll go into bringing in a third symbol into the car itself, and we'll create a separate animation because the light will be animated differently from the tires. So what we'll do is we'll go ahead and continue this in another video. So if you have any questions up to this point, shoot me a message, and I hope you enjoyed this lab up to here.